scene does not appear in any of the books. It was completely made up for the show.
You have to let go, Percy. I can't.
Percy is never said to have been afraid of water at any point in his life. And you would think he would have mentioned it if he had been, considering the irony and his own sense of humor. He does develop a fear of drowning in Heroes of Olympus after nearly being smothered in muskeg, but that's a good bit later in the timeline.
Mom?
Hello again, little hero. A forbidden child attracts attention. A forbidden hero, well, they attract doom.
Finally, a dream that's in the correct place, more or less. But it's still not entirely correct. For one, the Lantern Man still wasn't part of it. The voice was coming from deep in the pit. For two, instead of delivering cryptic warnings, the voice actually made Percy an offer. Bring him the Master Bolt, and he'll give Percy his mother. And for three, the dream is supposed to end with the voice from the pit pulling on Percy to try to escape. Fortunately, the spirits of the dead come to wake Percy up. Okay, I guess we're just on the train now with no explanation. In the book, Grover got them the money for train tickets with the help of a stray poodle named Gladiola. Gladiola had run away from his rich family, but agreed to let the trio return him for the reward money. It's one of the funniest scenes in the book, no idea why they cut it. I'd assume time constraints, but then I realized that this is the first episode of the series to be adapted from a single chapter of the book.
Hey, you asleep?
Yes.
Wow, they even sprung for sleeper tickets. They couldn't afford that in the book, even with Gladiola's reward money, and that was twice what the camp had given them.
You and Dahlia were really close, right?
Again, Percy did not know Annabeth and Thalia were friends by this point. This conversation could not have happened.
When Luke and Thalia found me, Luke cared for me right away. But Thalia, she made me earn it.
No, she didn't. Again, Luke and Thalia both agreed to take care of Annabeth at the same time. For f***'s sake, she was 7 years old and living in a warehouse. This version of Thalia sounds like a jackass.
Is that why you give me a hard time? I gotta earn it with you, too?
Yeah, maybe.
No, Annabeth gave Percy a hard time because she was too caught up in their parents' rivalry. Well, that and because Percy was kind of an idiot.
I started out as a gift to my father. That's how it works with Athena. We're born from a thought in her mind and then given to a partner she feels connected to.
This is actually not revealed until the fourth book. Nobody really thought it needed explaining until Percy remembered, oh wait, Athena is a virgin goddess. How does she have kids? Not to mention that this explanation implies that Athena makes the children alone, while in the book, it's very clear that the father's mind is also part of it.
For a while, I was treated like a gift.
No, actually, she wasn't. As far as Annabeth can remember, her father always saw her as a burden he never asked for. Echidna was never shown doing whatever the hell this is.
2 days until we reach Los Angeles.
Wait, sleeper tickets from New Jersey to Los Angeles? Gladiola only got them as far as Denver. Where the f*** did they get the money for these tickets?
I've never been to Los Angeles before. I'm guessing neither of you have been to Los Angeles. So, how will we have any idea where we're going?
You look for DOA recording studios. You should know that by now, but you didn't grab the damn freight bill when you had the chance.
Are those...
Centaurs.
There used to be herds of them, everywhere.
What happened to them?
Humans.
Centaurs are not buffalo. There is no indication in any of the books that they are threatened by human activity. The thing that prompts the discussion of Pan was a littered campsite.
The bravest satyrs volunteer to become searchers, trying to find Pan.
In the book, Grover explicitly says he wants to become a searcher. It's kind of the reason he's on the quest to begin with, because the only way for him to become one is to help Percy on one.
Your uncle we found in Medusa's. Ferdinand. He was a searcher.
And Grover's father too, let's not forget him.
You want to explain?
This did not happen in the book. In fact, nothing bad happened on the train at all. It was only when they got off that things went south.
Can you tell me what time you left the cabin?
Are we under arrest?
I don't think you want to take that tone with me, little girl.
Okay, this is definitely going to be open to interpretation due to a variety of factors, but going strictly by her characterization in the books, I would expect Annabeth to at least attempt to talk the cop into letting them go, using persuasion or deception. Of course, it's not like we can know for certain because they never had to deal with any cops in the book to begin with.
Either way, we aren't spending the day answering questions in the St. Louis police station.
The stop at St. Louis was a planned layover. Annabeth just wanted to do some sightseeing while they were there.
Do you mind if I sit?
In the book, Echidna had the Chimera out on a leash, not in a carrier. Also, this is not how Echidna looked. She looked like a fat lady in a blue dress, probably because she had to hide a coiled up snake tail underneath it.
Isn't that right, Precious? Yes, sweetheart. My little one here.
Echidna uses a variety of pet names for the Chimera here, but in the book, she only ever called him Sonny.
We've run across a few monsters like you, and we've sent them all packing.
Monsters like me. Of course they're like me. They were my children.
No, they weren't. The Furies were daughters of Uranos and Nyx. The Minotaur was the son of Pasiphae and the Cretan Bull, and Medusa was the daughter of Phorcys and Keto, which would actually make her Echidna's sister. What do you mean I'm being too literal?
The mother of monsters.
Echidna.
Seriously? No monotreme jokes?
Monster. It's an odd word, considering my grandmother is your great-grandmother, and this has always been a family story.
Okay, this is probably veering into pet peeve territory, but I have some opinions on how this show uses the term monster. In the book, monster is used almost like an objective taxonomic category, describing mythical creatures in general, regardless of their alignment. The show seems to take a more subjective view of the term, raising questions of who it really makes sense to call monsters. The book never really bothered with such questions, it just took the stance of, yeah, some monsters are good.
My little one here. She's just a pup now.
This is actually kind of interesting, as it seems the show is trying to fix a mythical inaccuracy from the book. You see, in the book, the Chimera is referred to as a male, but in mythology, the Chimera is consistently described as female. So the show seems to have decided to go the myth-accurate route. And you know what? I'm in favor of this. It's an inconsequential change to the story that makes it more authentic to its inspiration, so I'll throw the show a bone on this one. No pun intended.
I needed you to understand what was happening so that she could track the scent.
The Chimera didn't really hunt the trio. Echidna just unleashed it where she found them.
You should run now.
Are we sure this is supposed to be the Chimera? Because the Chimera's tail doesn't look like that. It's supposed to be a massive diamondback snake. Percy was the only one of the trio to face the Chimera. The others had already been separated from him before it came out of hiding. I don't see any rhinestones on the Chimera's collar.
Percy!
Open this door!
Come back here, open this door!
What is that?
It's a stinger.
Again, the Chimera did not have stingers on its tail, it had snake fangs. Stingers are more of a manticore thing, and no manticores showed up until the third book. Also, while the Chimera's snake tail did bite Percy, that was basically its finishing move, not its opener.
We aren't going to be able to outrun them for very long.
We don't need to. We just need a safe place to hole up. A sanctuary dedicated to Athena.
There's an Athenian temple in somewhere in the middle of downtown St. Louis.
Yes. Except it's not all that hidden.
The Gateway Arch was not a temple to Athena in the books, nor did they go there to take refuge from a monster attack. Annabeth just didn't want to stop in St. Louis without going to see it in person because she's such a huge architecture enthusiast.
It's 630 feet wide, 630 feet tall, both to within an inch. It's got no internal support. Each side is balanced perfectly against the other. And it's earthquake-proof, so Poseidon can't ruin it. This is how you show Athena your love.
I bet a lot of you are expecting me to take a sin off for this because it shows Annabeth's love for architecture. Here's the thing, though. This is the only time Annabeth has a moment like this, and the whole context of the scene frames it as being less about architecture and more about Athena. So I still feel like the show missed a trick here. Maybe if she'd been reading Vitruvius on the train, or if they'd actually let her say she wanted to be an architect like in the book, I'd be singing a different tune. But as it is...
It's a monument to some other stuff, too.
You're talking about what some humans want this place to be about. I'm talking about what it actually is.
This argument was not in the book. In fact, Grover wasn't even paying attention at all during the museum tour. He was too busy snacking on jelly beans and sniffing for monsters, which is apparently more difficult underground since everything smells like the underworld down there.
Well, since our train exploded...
Wait, what? When did that happen? Because I certainly didn't see anything to indicate that happened. It certainly didn't happen in the book. The train was right there waiting for them when they got back from the arch. You blew up the wrong vehicle and didn't even show it.
I guess you were right, by the way. We needed a safe place, and your mom had one waiting.
You know, this is my mother's place, but a temple is a temple. Maybe you could say hi to your dad while we're here.
I don't want anything from him. He's had his chances. Honestly, you've done more for me in the past few days than my father's done in my entire life.
The show seems to be really playing up Annabeth's devotion to her mother and Percy's resentment of his father. While these ideas were present in the book, they were nowhere near this overt about it.
Somewhere around here, the Oracle is laughing at us, but you know... Whoa!
In the book, the Chimera's venom took effect almost immediately after Percy was bit.
I have an idea. Come on, help me. Okay. The water cure back at camp. It should work for poison too, right? Maybe it needs to be naturally running water for Poseidon to be able to heal him.
No, it doesn't. Percy can heal himself from artificial water sources as well as natural. In fact, the first time he got a water boost was when he dumped a jug of water on himself during sword training. If that counts, this should count too.
Okay, look, we'll take Percy inside and we'll go to the temple's altar. The highest point, the best view.
The trio didn't go to the top of the arch for any tactical reason. Once again, they just did it for sightseeing purposes.
Guys, did you hear that?
Hear what?
What was that back there?
What did you hear? She spoke to you. Electo did that with me back in the museum in New York.
And just like with Electo, this did not happen in the book.
How did the Chimera even get inside here? How did any monster get inside here?
Annabeth?
We're in a sanctuary. Athena would have had to let her in, but why would she do that?
Annabeth! What did Echidna say to you?
She said my impertinence wounded my mother's pride. And that will be my doom.
Athena didn't punish Annabeth for the Medusa head thing. In fact, it never really had any consequences for any of the trio. If there's any god to blame for the Chimera attack, it's Zeus, who is implied to have led Echidna to Percy's location.
We gotta get everybody out of here.
None of the trio pulled a fire alarm to clear out the observation deck. The Chimera attack happened right as the observation deck was closing, so there were only a handful of people there to begin with.
You and Percy, follow them down. What? Someone has to stay back to slow her down and buy everyone some time.
Wait. Take this.
This is not how the trio were split up in the book. There just wasn't enough room on the tram car for all three of them, and Percy volunteered to wait for the next one. Of course, if he'd known doing that would leave him alone with the Chimera, he probably would have asked them to stick around to support him. Remember how I said there was still a handful of people on the observation deck when the Chimera attacked? Yeah, they were still there when Percy started fighting, which gave him an extra bit of motivation to protect them. This is an interesting creature design to be sure, but it's an odd choice for the Chimera. The Chimera in the book is described similarly to its traditional mythical depiction. A lion head and front legs, a goat body and hind legs, and a snake for a tail. Also, it had a bloody mane and the same collar as its dog form with a helpful tag for anyone who finds it stray. Also, at this point, Echidna had started to reveal her own snake-like monster form as well. When did Echidna get telekinetic powers? I don't remember that from the books or real mythology. In the book, the Chimera blasted a hole in the arch with its fire breath. Why didn't you just do that? Hey, show, you got that backwards. It's supposed to be Riptide that falls down the hole, and Percy that stays on the observation deck. Well, this is kind of a letdown. In the book, Percy's fall from the arch was a leap of faith, the first time he ever put his trust in Poseidon for anything. Here, we get none of that, and Poseidon saving Percy just feels like a literal deus ex machina. Once again, the show is actually trying to correct a genuine error from the book. When the book was initially written, Rick Riordan had been under the impression that the Gateway Arch either spanned the Mississippi River, or was at least much closer to the bank than it really was. As a result, both Percy and his sword fall into the river, which is rather unrealistic. So instead, the show changes this to where the river moves to catch Percy, which is an interesting move, but I think it's about the most sensical you can get. Percy actually landed softly on the riverbed. He kicked up a bit of trash, but never got stuck in anything.
Just breathe. Your father is here. He's always been here. Trust him. Just breathe.
He also had no trouble breathing underwater the first time. It's a weird feeling for him, sure, but he gets the hang of it pretty quickly. I will give the episode this. It was much less of a slog to get through than the first two episodes, and the changes to the story were far less egregious than the third. But at the same time, it feels far less substantial. This is a single episode based on a single chapter, and I think it shows. While the story was well paced, so little actually happened that I was honestly shocked it ended where it did on my first viewing. And as inconsequential as they were, the changes they did make still bugged me. The show seems very dedicated to not letting the characters stumble into danger, which I think defeats a key theme from the book. The real world is dangerous for demigods. There are monsters on every corner. Stumbling into danger is just something that happens on quests. It happened to Perseus, Theseus, it's basically the entire plot of the Odyssey, and it's something that's gonna happen to Percy Jackson. One of the big problems I had with the first movie was the hunt for the pearls because it undermined that idea, and I think the show is making that same mistake by adding the train attack and turning the Gateway Arch into an Athenian temple. And on the subject of Athena, wow, this episode did her dirty. Athena did have some petty moments in the books, particularly when Poseidon was involved, but one of her most consistent traits was her desire to protect Annabeth. Allowing her to be potentially killed by the Chimera for something so petty is the exact opposite of that. Unless Octavian did something to awaken her Minerva personality. But all that being said, this was honestly one of the better episodes. It's still not great, but it's an improvement over what came before it. Let's see how well they keep this up. I'm free. Free falling. Yeah, I'm free.